In this lesson, we'll understand exactly what CAD is. The scene is 0 to begin in your project files, and yes, we're starting with a blank scene because we'll take a look at how quickly we can set up a control rig and then how to then instantly add animation. So this is going to be a really neat topic. Now, CAT, it's an acronym for Character Animation Toolkit, and as it implies, it's a plugin that's used to very quickly animate our characters and creatures. What's great is that there are several presets that we can choose from to match any character's proportions. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Heading over to our Create panel, we'll go to Helpers, and let's go to our drop-down and choose CAT Objects. What you'll see here are just a set of nodes we can work with. We'll discuss muscle a little bit later on in this course. It's going to be a really neat topic. I'm excited to share that with you, as well as the preset rigs here. Let's go ahead and select CAT Parent, and this is what we'd use to create our control system. So if we were to go ahead and scroll down here, notice we have a list of several character types, which is great because chances are the character we'll work with can match closely to one of these presets. If not, we have the freedom to create our own preset. And we'll take a look at that very shortly. But if you'll notice, if I were to go ahead and scroll all the way down, notice I've added this creature rig preset here. We'll learn how to create this again, how to save this out so that we can load these in instantly. But if I were to go ahead and just select that and go ahead and click in the scene and give Max a quick second, notice I have this rig that loads in automatically. So this is really neat stuff here. And just as easily as we can create a rig, it's very easy to remove one. It's just a matter of selecting this global node that's created with the arrow in the center, just hitting the delete key. So if we're to just go in, making sure that we are out of create mode, let's go ahead and make sure of that. Again, just selecting the node in the center, hitting delete. That rig is now gone. But let's go ahead and take a look here. Let's go ahead and choose something very random out of this list. I'll go ahead and grab the alien. So at this point, I'll go ahead and just start to drag out to increase the size of this. All right, beautiful. So at that point, again, I'll go ahead and right click to exit create mode. All right, so in no time at all, we're left with a very neat alien rig that we could start to add controls and other things like that. But let me go ahead and show you. So now that we have this, if we wanted to start to match this to our character, it's just a matter of now going in and grabbing certain pieces of this control rig. And these pieces that we'd want to manipulate, they're called hub objects. Now hubs, we can think of them as the main driving object for each section or each component of our rig. So this hand object would be considered a hub. If we were to go in and start to pull this around and manipulate it, you can see that we can start to, again, match this to whatever size we would need. We also have the freedom of going in and grabbing each limb and manipulating it that way, so that by the end of this, again, we have something that not only matches our character scale, but being that this can be done instantly, this can thus prove to be a very efficient tool for our rigging and animation workflow. So if you were to take a look here, you can see how we can get this stretch behavior. Well, this is all regulated by some settings in our hierarchy panel. If we were to head over there and head over to link info, notice this gives us some more detail as to how the rig behaves. And we'll take a look at some of these presets here. But under setup mode, which we are currently under, notice we have this option here. Manipulation causes stretching, and this is what gives us this stretching behavior we need to have this rig fit inside of our character. So we'll take a look at these settings a little bit later on, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you that. Also, you can see how it's very hard to kind of mirror this right now. I mean, it's great that we have this kind of freedom, but how would we bring this over to the opposite side? Well, it's actually quite simple. It's just a matter of grabbing the main hub object, which in this case can go ahead and grab our clavicle. And now we can head over to our modify panel and notice we have this copy limb setting. So if we were to go ahead and choose that and now go to the right side, in order to mirror the changes, you'd want to use this last paste option, paste mirror limb settings. Notice how seamless and how very robust this is. And we'll take a look at, again, how truly powerful this system is as we proceed, as we use this to create our own custom rig. I would also like to point out Rick Vicen's tutorial on rigging and animation workflows with CAT. It goes through some really neat tricks and techniques, how to swap your CAT meshes so your initial skin is a lot better. With these bone objects that we have here, I mean, we're going to get a great skin regardless, but the fact of the matter is that if we can go in and basically design our own proxy for each character and then replace that with the CAT preset, I mean, that's just going to lead to not only a better skin in the end, but when we're ready to, let's say, animate and hide the high-res mesh, we could see how our performance is going to be ideal for animation. All right, beautiful. Well, at this point, I'd also like to point out that this is a very non-destructible way of working. So if we needed to, we can go ahead and get rid of certain limbs very easily. It's just a matter of, again, grabbing our hub objects. We can now double-click, and we could just go ahead and remove that object. And you can see how it's no longer a part of that control rig, but bringing it back is also very simple to do. You can see here when we go ahead and select between objects, we can go ahead and add bone objects and things like that. We would need to tweak them, of course, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, this is just a great way to just go in and quickly get right to work. Now with these preset rigs, you can see that we have the choice here of adding certain elements. So if I were to go ahead and grab on this root here, our hip, notice we can go in and add an arm if we'd like, but that gets added to that object here, not necessarily to the top. But notice at the very top of the rig, we have another hub object where we can create limbs. So if I were to go ahead and choose add arm, there's our alien arm again. And you can see how it has mirrored based off of what we had on the right side. So this is really neat. We can add a tail if we like. So this might be pretty fun if we were to just go ahead and choose add tail and add that to the top of the spine. And then selecting the root there, we could go ahead and just rotate that down and basically manipulate this to our liking. So we have a lot of control over customizing our rig, which is very fun. All right, so let's go ahead and have some fun with this. Let's go ahead and start to add some animation. Let's say we wanted our alien creature to now quickly walk. Well, what we can then do, just selecting one of the pieces here, is head over to our motion panel. Notice we have this layering system for animation. So again, we'll get into this further as we proceed, but I just want to show you how cool this system is. So if we were to go ahead and head over to our layer option to add in a layer, you can see we have several choices here, but I'm going to go ahead and choose the last option, which enables cat motion. All right, now hitting play, you won't see any movement just yet because we're still in setup mode. How do we know that? Well, it's because of this option here at the top left of our layer manager rollout. So this means that, all right, we're just in a mode right now that would allow us to conform this rig. But when we're ready to animate, we simply go ahead and click on this icon, and now we're in animation mode. When we hit play, instantly we see a really cool walk cycle. And this can be edited, and we'll get into those settings. But I just wanted to show you again, this is really neat to work with. All right, great. Now, One other thing I'd like to point out, actually a few other things before we move on to the next lesson and talk about CAT IKFK system. So one, if you ever needed to resize your rig, you'd want to do so after you have removed any animation layers. So while you're in setup mode, that's the time when you'd want to resize your control rig. Let me go ahead and show you this. If we were to go ahead and select our cat motion layer and just go ahead and remove it, you can see how our character reverts back. Now, if we were to head over to our modify panel, I'll go ahead and select the global node here, and you'll find the cat units ratio. So this is what we'd use to resize. But again, this is only accessible once we've removed our animation layers. To prove this, if I were to go to our motion panel and go in and add an absolute layer, just go to the drop down and just go ahead and choose the absolute layer, first choice at the top. If we were to now go back to our modify panel, notice this is grayed out, cannot access it. Now another thing I'd like to point out, and this is useful for game developers, is we often need a root node for our game characters, point of reference, and that is created here. This is the motion extraction node. So now we have a world offset using the main character node, but then we have a local offset using the larger arrow in the center, this motion node. So I did want to point that out to you. Alright, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and stop the lesson, and in the next lesson, we'll learn more about CAT IKFK system, how that works.